Okay, welcome. In this video, we're going to tackle one of the more complex topics. We're going to tackle what are called relative field types or person relative field types, and also then another thing called assignee field type values. So let's give you the use case first. So let's say we have our video application here, and right now we can request the right to view videos. We could be assigned the right to view videos. And the differentiation or the scoping is by video category. So you could request a specific video category, or someone could assign which video categories you're allowed to watch. Now, with videos or with movies, there's often another dimension which might be the rating. So depending upon the user's age and other criteria, you may only want certain users to be able to view G-rated movies or PG-rated movies and not R or NC-17. So we really need another field type. That would be an attribute of our video, because that would be a property of the video, which would be its rating. But in this case, we don't really want to add it on the assignment itself. So every time we assign the video, we have to pick the rating, because then it doesn't really make sense that, let's say, a user is age 12 years old. Then it's not really up to the assignment when you grant them view video for this video or that video or this category. It's not really related to the category. If they can only ever view G or PG, then that should really be based on them, the person, an attribute coming from them. That's why we call it person relative or assignee relative. It's really the attribute is on the resource, in our case the video, which is its rating, but we only want to let them view or be restricted based upon the values they have on themselves. So if they only are allowed G or PG on their person, their assignee, then it shouldn't be on the assignment. It should just use that value from that person. So in order to do that, we're going to create a field type, and we're going to call it just video rating. We run the wizard workflow for this one. And we'll create a new one. We'll call it vid rating. Video content rating. Rates in G, PG, R, NC-17. And we don't care about it for membership rules. We talked about that previously. We are going to allow, the default would be multi-select, because you might be able to view G, PG, but not the rest, or G, PG, R, and not NC-17. Grid lookup supported doesn't really matter. We're going to rename that field. Basically, that's whether or not you want to have advanced data source where you call an PowerID method to get the data. We're just going to manage this data as field type values, so values associated with this field type, because there aren't that many. And we're going to put it in the default organization location, because that's fine. We're not getting very specific on our back delegation here. Now at this point, we're going to have our field type. And I will go real quick, just to save time, and add I'll run the workflow to add the field type values, and then we'll come right back. Okay, so we added the values quickly behind the scenes just to save time. And now we want to say that when someone is requesting or viewing video footage, that one of the conditions is the video itself is going to have a rating. It'll have one rating value, and we want to make sure that they can't watch videos that they're not allowed to have, that they don't have on their person or their assignee as authorized ratings. So let's configure the link the field type, so that way we're going to add this as an ABAC condition or PBAC condition, however you want to call it. So that's the existing one, but category. We'll pick the new one here. Video rating. And now selection is required. And here's the interesting thing. So we're saying that this is scoped to the resource. So this is an attribute on the resource. Every video has a rating. But we don't want on assignment to force them to pick a value, because it doesn't make sense. It's whichever ones you're allowed to see are for all videos, not specifically on a single policy. So we're going to pick person relative. And what that tells the system is that in a policy, the control that the user sees is that really they're going to just see the values that the person has on them, and they're read-only. They can't change them, and they could change at any time. The person could get older, and all of a sudden they can see our movies. So it's not on the assignment. Again, it's relative to the person's values, but it is a resource attribute. So let's click Next. There we go. So now on View Video, if we go here and pop it up, we haven't configured anything else. So on the people, none of our people, it's a brand new field type. They're not going to have any values assigned to them. So at this point, if they get the assignment to view a video, until they have values, they're not allowed to see any of them because they don't have any value. They don't have any values. But if we look here, now we see video content rating. It's not configured. We made it required actually, which we shouldn't have, because it's person relative. They can't change it anyway. So we can go back and fix that. Let's go back, and I will make view video. We'll configure the field types for right, and shouldn't matter, but because it's person relative, you can't pick a value. There we go. And we're going to say not allowed, not required. Okay, there we go. And now we should be okay to take it to the next step. Okay, so let's recap. So we have our view video, which now has two field types. In an assignment, you can pick which categories you want or you're allowed. And that's a resource field type scope, multi-select. We also have another resource field type scope, which is the rating, which we said was person relative, which means that when you're requesting or being assigned, a value isn't selected. It's whenever it's exported for downstream systems, or if it's a runtime, real-time evaluation, then it's going to look at what your value is. Either at an export time for downstream systems, it'll look at your values and export them, or at runtime, when it's making a decision at the policy decision point, it's going to look at which values you have to see if it matches the one on the resource, which in this case is our video. So the next question is, well, how does the assignee, how does the person get values for this field type of which movie ratings they're allowed to see? So in the data model, that is stored on the assignee. It's called AZ assignee field type values, which means that any assignee in Empower ID can, for a field type, have values. And those are basically maybe your allowed, your list of your bank accounts, some data that you want to store about a person, which would be useful in this relative situation, which in our case is the movie ratings. Now, assignees are people or groups or management roles or business roles or locations. So if you're using this to say that everybody who's a developer in France has certain field type values like allowed countries, France, or other things, then you can assign it at that level and the person will inherit it. But it doesn't have to be directly to a person, but it can be managed at the person level. Now in the ASP.NET Web, if I go to Report, Access, and PBAC Attribute Assignments, here's where I can see these. So it looks like Patrick, just for testing on the auth-then stuff, was assigned a to-do item owner of Morty. So that's his owner value, so he can see those records. That was for an auth-then test of interop internally. And then for the training application, list of departments, he has accounting. So that's what we have so far. Now we could come over here and theoretically we could pick video and pick rating, and we could manage it directly as an admin. And that's one way to do it. You can also allow them in the IM shop to self-manage these, and that's what we're going to show, because that might be the more common option. And if you allow them to self-manage them, then of course they can go for approval, and you can route them based upon even the values to different approvers. So if this were a field type for like my allowed or authorized countries, you might have each country I select get routed to different approvers based on the field type value, which we saw in a previous video. So again, you can manage them here. Also, on your synchronization from your external systems, your account stores. Now, let's say this was an attribute coming from HR. On the account store connector itself, You can say this attribute coming in from that system on a user account, like let's say department, I want it to synchronize into this pback attribute or field type, in this case departments. So you can't have external synchronization processes automatically synchronize it in, or even in pback at runtime, in the request to the policy decision point, this could be passed in as data about the assignee at that moment in time as well. So there's lots of ways to use this, and we're just going to see how easy it is to manage it. We could manage it here, but probably the better way to manage it is to allow them to manage it themselves. So to do that, we're going to create an app, right? And we're going to, because in order to manage the field type values and to have it be easy in Resource Admin and in the IM shop, then what we can do is we can just create a dummy write, add that field type onto it, and then they can request changes. And as long as the system knows that that one is flagged to synchronize back into their assignee field type values, then at the end, if it's approved, the fulfillment workflow takes a look at it and says, oh, those values need to update your assignee field type values. So we're going to call this we'll just call it assignee values. Assignee field type values. Could have a friendlier name, but for our purposes, we want to keep it very explicit. Right to allow managing assignees field type values. Okay. And now here's the key. What makes it this type of value, or this type of write? We're going to say that flow to person values. What this tells you is that editing the field type values on this write, if it will update the same on your person or your assignee. We're not going to export it because it's not really, it's a dummy one. It's just to allow us to ease of self-management. We're not going to assign an approval right, but we could, I guess. Let me think about that. That might make it easier for us if we do. That way we don't have to go to the RBAC model to control who's going to approve it. And resource type is video. Could be an application right in this case because it's not really about the video. But we only have one resource type. Now we're going to just finish this wizard and assign Patrick. I'll finish it quickly because you've seen this before in the other videos, and then we'll pick back up at the end. Okay, so just to recap, I saved a little time, but we have our new write. We made it requestable. We picked the approval write and pback approval routing. We assigned my little shortcut for basically everyone's eligible for it, anyone who can see themselves, their in-person object. And the one unique thing about this one so far is that we said yes to flow to person values. What this means is that any field type that's linked to this one, it's going to flow those values to the person or to the assignee. In this case, it's the person. And if it's fulfilled and approved, it's going to keep those values up to date. So now, in order to do that, we need to link our field type, which was our rating. So let's link that one to our new dummy write we created to be able to manage our assignee values for that. So let's say video, content rating, we're going to link that one. There we go, everything looks good. It is, so we're linking it to this one. So this is the one, the dummy one, where we're editing it. So we're going to say it's required. We could say allow a selection of any values because we don't care which one. We don't need to restrict it. They can pick any values. It can go for approval. Field type is still resource because it's all about the resource, even though it's going to flow the assignee. Doesn't matter in this case because this one is not really used for any authorization decisions. It's literally just a convenience feature so you can edit these values on yourself. We'll stick with multi-select checkbox. And now we have it linked. We'll go check that out just to verify. This one has that field type linked. Okay, there we go. So now at this point, what the system knows is that if you request this app write and it gets approved, then the values you selected that got approved are going to update your assignee values. So if we came back in here later, we would see those values checked for you the ones that you had approved. It would come into this fulfillment process and put them here. So let's go take a look at that real quick, just to see the user experience on that. So if I come into the IAM shop, or if a resource admin, somebody assigns it to me, they want to manage it, then in this case, we'll go applications, we'll do video, I'll request access, and now I see this one, which definitely we could have given it a better name. I know what that means, but the end user probably wouldn't. And here we have the values, so I can say, okay, I would like to be able to watch movies PG, G, and R. Let's add those to my cart, submit those through. I will evaluate the request for risk, and then I am going to submit it. And again, if it gets approved, it's going to update my person. Okay, ready to submit. Now it's going to get routed for approval. Let's go take a peek at that. Okay, let's take a look at our business request and just validate that it went to Owen for approval, for PBAC approval. And now if Owen approves it, and it should get fulfilled and update the field type values on the assignee. In this case, the assignee is Patrick. So let's log in as Owen and we'll approve it real quick. Okay, here I am in as Owen, and I have this item here to approve, PG, G, PG, and R. I'm okay with that. I will approve it. So now it's going from approved, and the fulfillment engine is going to pick it up, and it will, see here, fulfillment succeeded, let's see, fulfillment claimed. Okay, so it's going to do it in any minute, so we'll wait for it to fulfill, and then we'll go take a look at the values on Patrick. Okay, it flagged it as approved. So a couple ways to check this out and just to validate it. One is to go over to the PBAC app right assignments. I can view and see, yep, Patrick has the assignment, and it has, he's allowed G, PG, and R. You could also go look in ASP.NET Web, report, access, attribute assignment. So we see he indeed has the field type content rating assigned, and if we look at the values, G, PG, and R. So at this point, what does this mean? This means that if Patrick comes into the IAM shop and he requests the right to view a video, so let's say video, here, and he requests access, to view a video. Remember, view video has the video category we had before, and it has the person relative or assignee relative field types. So what we're seeing here, just to explain it, is Patrick can request to view marketing or compliance or nature or all these video categories, but it's the access assignment always requires the video content rating, and it's not letting him pick which ones. He's not saying I want NC-17. It's relative, so it's going back to the data source, looking at Patrick's data over here and saying, oh, Patrick has these values. So when we submit this request, at this moment in time, if this got approved, let's say, Patrick would be able to view all videos as long as none of these videos in these categories were NC-17. If they're NC-17, he wouldn't be able to view them because his current values are this. Now if that changes, so this goes for approval, these values aren't explicitly hard-coded or saved. If it goes for approval, it gets approved, and then Patrick's values behind the scenes change, and now he can view NC-17. Then at runtime, when the decision is made by the policy decision point, or at export time, when the data is exported, it would export or use the values at that moment in time. So it's always up to date, basically. It's more of a real-time type of decision. So I hope this helps. This is one of the more complicated topics, but again, just to review, that you can, on a write, have field types that are person relative, where you're not picking the value during assignment. You're saying, okay, in this case, the video is going to have a rating, And that person better have that rating as one of their values in order for them to be able to see this particular video. So if the video were NC-17, Patrick wouldn't be able to see it unless he had that value. If the video were PG, Patrick has that value. So it's going to do a look back or a relative look back in that case. And this handles that type of scenarios where you don't really want the data in the assignment. You want it to be based on something outside of the assignment. Okay, well, thank you very much.